not everything that Trump does is bad.
I said, hold up.
Has anyone checked on Michael Smerconish lately? I'm a little concerned about him. After doing this report, you're not supposed to say this on CNN. What is he thinking? You know, this guy is interesting. He used to be what he would consider himself a conservative through the years, and then he claims that he drifted to the center. I believe he drifted to left of center. Of course, he's closer to center than anyone else on CNN. Well, of course, besides Scott Jennings. Anyway, this is some interesting insights that he has, and I don't know if Democrats are going to listen to him, but he's got some good points.
From the Philly Burbs, last week I gave free advice to President Trump on his handling of the Epstein saga. He didn't follow it. Now I have counsel for Democrats who are struggling to find an effective voice in opposition to the president's policies. To the extent there's a common thread among Democrats thus far, it has been to strenuously object to any and everything that Trump does.
Michael, that is what we call Trump derangement syndrome.
This approach was on full display this week on the floor of the U.S. Senate when New Jersey Senator Cory Booker excoriated Trump over policing policy.
What I am tired of is when the President of the United States of America violates the Constitution, trashes our norms and traditions. And what does the Democratic Party do? Comply? Allow him? Beg for scraps? No, I demand justice.
Democratic Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, who had tried to pass the bills by unanimous consent, didn't appreciate Booker's stance. As she put it, we can do both. Support our communities, keep them safe, and take on Donald Trump and his bad policies. She makes a good point. Passing laws is a large part of what Congress was created for, and passing popular laws is usually good politics. Nevertheless, I have little doubt that Booker's performance will serve him well, raising his profile and his fundraising. It was yet another I am Spartacus moment, not unlike when he was on his feet for 25 hours earlier this year, lambasting just about everything regarding Trump. That time he even got a book deal out of it with the immodest title of Speech of the Century. But in terms of political effectiveness, I agree with former Senator Claire McCaskill, who said on Morning Joe, Booker knew that if he did what he did on Tuesday, it would be a viral moment and that he would be associated with Democrats who are willing to fight. Willing to fight. Democrats love the idea, and the approach might work for individual politicians, but it's not working for the Democratic Party writ large, and ultimately it bolsters President Trump. Consider that according to a Wall Street Journal poll released last month, the Democratic Party has the lowest approval rating in 35 years. The party is viewed negatively by 63% of American voters. Only 33% give it a favorable view. And that poll was no one-off. A few days prior, a CNN poll found that just 28% viewed Democrats favorably, the lowest number this poll has ever shown. Meanwhile, in the Wall Street Journal survey, President Trump's approval stood at 46%. While this is considerably higher than the Democrats' rating, it's actually better than usual for Trump, but still underwater. Yet Democrats have been unsuccessful in capitalizing on Trump and his more unpopular policies. It might sound counterintuitive, but maybe what's in the party's best interest is to, dare I say, agree with Trump from time to time.
Wait a minute.
Acknowledge wins on issues like NATO, trade, and the border, which have yielded some positive results, even while disagreeing with the way in which they came about. It's a good thing that migration through our previously porous borders has slowed to a trickle, and that our NATO allies have agreed to increase their contribution from 2 to 5% of gross domestic product, and that the markets, despite having just had a rough week, have done well in the year to date. Inflation seems to be tamed. Plus, while Trump's tariff policy looked like it was implemented by the seat of his pants, thus far, all the doomsday fears have not panned out.
I'm proud of you, you know that. I hope you do.
Bill Maher said it this way on his Club Random podcast.
Just to take an example, tariffs. Now, I remember along with probably most people, was saying at the beginning, oh, you know, by the 4th of July, somebody had to think how the country was, the economy was going to be tanked by then. And I was kind of like, well, that seems right to me, but that didn't happen. Now, it could happen tomorrow. I'm just saying that's reality. So let's work first from the reality of that not from I just hate Donald Trump. Because that's boring and doesn't get us anywhere and leads you to dishonesty. Because the truth is, I don't know what his strategy is. But look, the stock market is at record highs. I know not everybody lives by the stock market, but I also drive around. I don't see a country in a depression at all. I see people out there just living their lives. And I would have thought, and I got to own it, that these tariffs were going to sink this economy by this time, and they didn't. So, you know, how do we deal with that fact? Because that's the fact.
Like Mar, Brett Stevens is not a fan of Donald Trump. He's a conservative critic who writes for the New York Times. This week, he published under the headline, "The Trump Presidency Takes a Better Turn." Stevens called the first 100 days of Trump 2.0 disastrous, but then said that Trump has more recently been successful, not something the president's, quote, foam-at-the-mouth critics had planned. He notes the strikes against Iran, which took political courage, were effective and did not result in a calamitous war. He lauds the delivery of arms to Ukraine, even if it was belated. And then summing things up, Brett Stevens wrote this. He said, if Trump's opponents want to someday be effective, and let's face it, we haven't been, then we need to come to grips with the realities that have so far eluded us, such as not everything Trump does is bad. Sometimes the president's bad manners and over-the-top tactics achieve useful diplomatic or political results. His about-face on Ukraine is a welcome demonstration that he's capable of changing his mind when the facts don't bear him out. Fulmination and moral hectoring are rarely persuasive, and neither are incessant predictions of doom that never quite materialize. Americans will listen to Democrats when they propose better solutions to common problems, not when they openly root for the administration to fail.
This really is the reality. The Democrats are not proposing any better solutions. All they have is the anti-Trump rhetoric all the time. They don't have any good ideas. It's their policies that are the reason they have such low approval. But as Napoleon said, never interrupt your enemy when he's making a mistake.
I've lambasted the administration over and over again, both in its current and previous term, and I'm sure I will again. But while it's never fun to be fair to those you dislike, it's also healthy. For criticism to be credible, it cannot be blind. I say that's a worthwhile reminder to a party that competes to outdo one another in condemnation of everything Trump. Mark Halpern made a similar point this week in his newsletter, observing, Democrats in their heartfelt anger and indignity continue to throw every available stone, stick, wrench, spanner, and kitchen sink at the head of the giant. But that kitchen sink strategy isn't working so well. Actually, that's not fair. It is working. It's working well for Donald J. Trump. 2 impeachments, 4 indictments, endless investigations, constant carping about Trump, and condescension toward his supporters. At some point, it all blends into background noise, such that when something truly egregious happens, like the firing of the person whose job it is to track labor statistics, nobody pays attention. The outrage loses its edge, the tree falls, and the forest shrugs. It all brings me to today's poll question at Smerconish.com. Agree or disagree, it is in the political best interests of Democrats to publicly give President Trump credit when he accomplishes something with which they concur. Hit me up on social media. I'll read some responses throughout the course of the program.
And here's your typical CNN viewer making this comment.
From the world of X. In theory, yes, says Doty, but since Trump has not done anything positive in his latest administration, it's a moot point. Okay, come on. This is to the poll question and the premise, which is to say, Democrats and opponents of Donald Trump would have more credibility with people that they need to reach, not with one another. You already have them. If every once in a while they acknowledge that there's been an achievement with which they actually agree. Now, Doty just said, well, there haven't been any. I offered you 2 in my opening commentary. Is it not a good thing that the porous border crossings have slowed to a trickle? Is it not a good thing that our NATO allies have agreed to move from 2 to 5% of GDP? I think they're both good things. Why not say it?
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Okay, Catherine, my producer, just asked me to predict the result, so I don't want to look at the screen. And I say I think people who vote will vehemently disagree with the poll question. 76% agree with the premise. See? It's in the best poll. All right, I'm impressed. 3/4 say, yeah, you know what? It's in the Democrats' best interest if every once in a while they give Trump credit on something that he's done with which they agree. Social media reaction. What do we have?
Well, I hope he enjoyed his little moment of joy, his little victory, because it just came crashing down with this next comment.
And what do we have? From the world of X. This is your question? Shame on you. Do better. How about asking people how they feel about the authoritarian? Okay, Sonia, you're part of the problem, again, among Democrats in that you're ineffective. If you want to complain about everything, then it becomes white noise. You're part of the problem, again, among Democrats in that you're ineffective.
What the hell is wrong with you people?